Hi, my name is Sabrina, and I studied at the Bachelor of Media Studies program in the University of British Columbia in Vancouver. I hope that my experiences that I'm sharing with you today will be able to give you just a little bit of insight into how it might feel like to study abroad. While I know that there is no one way to go about university, I'd like to share a few things that I learned about applying to university, ranging from dealing with certain parts of the application to considering the place that you're planning to go. So the things you might want to consider when applying to university. So firstly, what you're studying, of course. Or if you're still unsure about that, then maybe the life that you want to try living or the place you want to try living in. In fact, some people that I went to school with originally came from elsewhere and end up living here or wanting to stay here beyond their studies. And you end up developing quite strong feelings for the place that you went to university in, and that might influence where you want to be after that. So diving into applying for your studies. Some valuable things I learned while applying. Of course, other than knowing the grade or course requirements needed to get into the program of your choice, some applications might require you to provide a brief written piece about yourself or something similar, asking for you to share stories about who you are and what you've learned. For example, for UBC, it's a section called Personal Profile. Now, I've been told before to take it seriously, and now I will impart that advice to everyone else. Take it seriously. And by that, I mean try not to BS. We've all been there before, trying to fill out the word count with some dribble. While I won't pretend I know what goes on in the heads of the admissions officers, I think taking this opportunity to share a bit about yourself wouldn't hurt. And in the process, cheesy as it sounds, you might also learn something about yourself. Second, when applying, you may be asked to choose a first, second, or maybe even a third choice of program that you want to study. I think it's good to think carefully about these choices, and maybe it goes without saying, but put the program you really want to get in for the first choice. Why I say this is because personally, I was a little wishy-washy when I was applying, and while I got accepted to my first choice, Bachelor of Arts, I realized that I wanted to do the program that I put into my second choice. In short, the university didn't let me be reassessed for my second choice, and I went into the Bachelor of Arts for my first year while wishing I had put down another program for my first choice. At the time, I was probably thinking along the lines of, it's the end of the world, what do I do now? But it's okay, because there's another way. I know that I'm not alone in wanting to do something different than what I had initially planned. So some people I went to school with end up even switching faculties, science to art for example, midway through university. So switching programs can be an option even after you've been admitted. You just have to keep in mind the transfer requirements. For example, do you need a certain grade? Is there a quota for transfers or new admissions each year? What kind of supplementary documents do you need to submit? Are the fees different? Etc. That kind of information you should be able to find out from your place of study. On a somewhat related note, if you don't get accepted into what you want to right away, I would try to encourage you to keep your mind open and try to find another way. For example, some people I went to university with did their first 2 years somewhere else and then transferred into the university. Some people took a break from their studies, and others decided to try a completely different program. To me, I don't think that detracts from your experience in any way, even though it's completely valid for you at that time to feel like it's the end of the world. There is no one way to experience university, and I hope it can be a bit of a comfort hearing it from someone else. Considerations outside of studying. I mentioned a few things earlier about things you can study outside of the studying aspect, such as the living environment, the actual place you want to go to, which includes the people, the culture, the language, the food, and yes, the weather. As an aside, here in the Pacific Northwest, the weather is actually a big deal and a real topic of discussion. 10 out of 12 months of the year are usually dominated by rain. In the winter, the sun sets at 3 or 4, and truthfully, it can be a little bit miserable. So these can be some of the things that you might want to consider, but at the end of the day, maybe half of the decision making just comes from making the leap and just going before developing any opinions or feelings about that place first. I only got to know the environment and culture here after actually living here for a bit, and maybe I wouldn't have known what to make of it even if I'd heard someone else's experiences of the same place. So that's what I wanted to share about what I learned applying to university and looking back on it. I hope it can be a bit of a help, and best of luck.
Before we go, here's a summary of what I've shared. 1. Taking the application requirements seriously. 2. Choosing your program carefully but keeping in mind that you can always change it afterwards. And 3. The place you go can be just as important to your experience as the thing you're studying.